Hey, have you ever considered restoring your chassis and painting it with Pour 15? That's what we did this weekend. Took this chassis completely apart, cleaned it, prepped it, painted it, reassembled it, all in one episode. It's a lot to unpack in one episode, but I tell you what, it's going to be totally worth it. So if you want to see how this gets done, stay tuned. That's a good boy. Hey, welcome to Restoring Christine. My name is Bill. This 56 Chevy Bel Air behind me, her name is Christine. And Restoring Christine is a video blog channel that I've got that is devoted to recording and documenting the entire build of this car all the way from the beginning to the end. And right now where we're at is we're still doing a lot of body work, still got a lot of metal work that we've been doing, but we're finally going to take a detour from that and get to work on the chassis. So that's what we're going to get into today. So here's Christine's chassis. When we picked Christine up off the ground, and put her on those two stands, we roll the chassis out. That was episode number 27, and it took us a little while to get it out. There's a few videos there, but number 27 will show you how we finally lifted the body off the ground and rolled the chassis out. And then later on, I came back and I did another little quick video that was episode number 29, and 29 kind of gave a walk-around tour of the chassis. What I'm going to do today is this is actually going to be a little bit of work on the chassis. What I'm planning on doing is I need to paint this. I bought some paint for it. I need to get it cleaned up. I need to get it prepped, disassembled. There's some stuff on it that I need to remove. I'm going to remove all the front chassis parts, get those off on the side, paint those separately. And hopefully this weekend, 1, 2, 3, I've got 3 days. So I'm planning on 1, today, getting it cleaned up, 2, tomorrow, getting it painted, and 3, getting it reassembled. So hopefully 1, 2, 3, we can get this chassis from where it sits today to pretty complete within 3 days. We'll see. So in order to prep this, I have to remove the exhaust is still here. I have fuel lines. I have a couple of remnant wires from the wiring loom that's still on here. I have all the front end parts, so the drag link, the tie rod arms, the front spindles, the upper and lower A-frames, all that's still in the car. Transmission mounting blocks. I've got to get all that off. And then what I've got to do is I've got to get into, look on the inside. When Christine was, we were prepping it, I sent it to a sandblaster. And there's sandblasting media all up in here. So that was episode number 2, called Back from the Blaster. But I've got a lot of dry media that's in here, so what I need to do is I think I'm going to take, and you can see it's all up in here too. What I need to do is I need to take my shop vac and a leaf blower and see if I can't blow down everything that's inside of these 2 frame rails, because I don't want that to get all gunked up. If I get it all gunked up and wet with my pressure washer, which is the next step, then it's going to delay me from painting it. So I need to get as much dry work as I can do, disassemble, dry work, and then we'll pressure wash it, let it sit, dry clean it, wire wheel it, and then paint it. It's the loose outline of what we're going to do now. So let's get started. Part of the beam that goes underneath the trunk, right in front of the tail panel. It was held together with Bondo. It came off when I lifted the body off the car. This piece just stayed with it. I couldn't unbolt it. I had to grind the 2 bolts out, but that's what's left of the trunk beam on both sides. Pretty sad, but we're making it right. Making progress. I spared you the boredom of watching me with my leaf blower and my vacuum. The vacuum wasn't very effective, but the leaf blower was, blowing in all these openings and blowing it out. Sometimes it helped to have the vacuum pulling a suction on one of the holes while I was blowing through some of the other stuff, but there's a lot of debris in there that had to be chiseled out. So now what I'm going to do is, I think, the frame. I'm going to go ahead and disassemble the front suspension, pull off the rear end, and then get it to where I just have the frame by itself. Well, the front end's out. The lower A-frames, spindles, and the rotors. Upper A-frames, springs, shocks, miscellaneous bolts. All the drag link assembly, the drag link, tie rod ends, steering box. I'm going to replace the steering box. I'm going to go with power steering, so that's going to go away. I ended up having to almost half destroy one of the tie rod ends to get it to disconnect from the steering knuckle. But all right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn my attention to the back and get the rear end out from underneath it. I already checked and all the bolts are loose, so that's going to be hopefully a lot more straightforward than what I just did in the front. So here we go. Now the rear end's out, sitting over here. That's it. Whoever put the springs on last put these pins on backwards. They drifted them in from outside. They drifted them in from here. And when you do that, it means you can't shove this out. So I'm pretty sure they got the passenger side on the driver's side on the passenger side. We'll get it straight. All right, so I'm gonna take a break. But I'm going to come back and then I'm going to pick up all my tools and then I'm going to get the pressure washer out. I'm going to pressure wash the whole thing. And then later on today, I'm going to wire wheel it. So keep it on. Before we get back at it, I want to address something that a few people commented on, and they were like, you know, maybe the body's twisted, maybe the frame is warped, maybe the frame's twisted. So I want to put that to rest right now. When I did the body, before I put the floor in, I made sure that the rear tray was level. I made sure the front tray was level. Two sides were level. The whole car was level, so there's no twist in that body. And the floor pan is square, so everything welded up. It's good. But watch the frame. I just took some measurements on the frame. Let me show you what we're doing on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from this back corner, way back corner, right there. Okay. I'm going to come up to a perch right here. 142 and 5/8 to the edge of the hole. All right, I'm going to do the same thing on the diagonal going the other way. I'll go back to that corner. Come all the way up to this perch. 142 and say 9/16. I'd say that's pretty square. I'm going to do another one. I'm going to go all the way from the back corner to the front shock mount. And come all the way here diagonally. Say 159 and 7/8. Try it again. Come all the way to this one. 159 and 7/8. Frame square. Frame square, body square, nothing to worry about. So it's good news. All right, I got my pressure washer ready. Frame's ready. Everything's out of the way. Let's go ahead and get this thing cleaned up. All right, doesn't look too bad. Got a few things that I got to clean up. I got some water doesn't do well with grease, so I got grease around over here, and I got a little grease over here, but then a little bit up here too, and then also underneath I've got to deal with the bottom side, so I'll get that. So while I'm working on the chassis, Deuce is just chilling. Deuce is a bad dog. Huh, Deuce? Yeah, that is a good boy. I hope to tell you this is dirty and tiring work. It's a lot of scraping, a lot of manual labor. So I'm scraping off all the grease and all the grime, getting all the crevices. So let me show you. Yeah, the front was blasted, but the body was on from, you know, there back. So the front was blasted. It's easier for me to clean. I'm doing it with the wire wheel. So I started doing the wire wheel all around here, and you can see the difference between blasted metal, the way it cleans up with the wire wheel, and non-blasted metal. But it's looking really good. I'm planning on using Pour 15. I bought a quart of black. So Pour 15, supposedly you can paint it over rust, so maybe a lot of this prep work I'm doing is overkill, but that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna keep on going. I'm gonna continue with the wire wheel. Here we go. Labor, labor, labor. It's tiring. Josie, you ready? Ready to go get it? Go get it! Bring it back. Bring it back. Right here. That's a good girl. That's a good girl. Ready? What an athlete. Come on. Come on. Come here. Come here. That's a good girl. Josie. That's a pretty girl. Well, good morning. We're on day 2 of the frame restoration now. Yesterday I got the frame taken apart, disassembled, got everything removed from it, pressure washed it, cleaned up all the gunk, wire wheeled it, maybe about 90%, and it's almost ready to start painting today. So I got a little bit more cleanup to do. And I'm going to tackle the main frame, then I'll tackle all the other parts, all the A-frames and everything else from the front and the rear end. So we'll see how this goes, but we're going to get started. Here we go. So check this out. I've never seen this before, but there it is, clear as day. The VIN number on the frame, 56S133049, and that's the VIN number that's on Christine's tag. I've never seen that. It was located in between the 2 body supports, I guess near the back of the front seat, so it's kind of underneath the door jamb, near the rocker panel. That's where the VIN number is. Okay, we're going to be using Pour 15. Some people say POR, some people say Pour, but it's Pour 15 rust prevented permanent coating. Paint directly over rust, seals rust permanently, professional use. That's not us. No need to remove rust before applying, lead-free from metal substrates only. Okay, so I've never used this stuff before, and I've read an awful lot about it on the internet. One thing I do know is that the people that do complain about it didn't do any prep work. So you can buy the Pour 15 metal prep material, or you can use something generic like phosphoric acid, which is what I'm going to do. So I went and picked up a bottle of, let's see if I can get it out of the shadow, Clean Strip concrete and metal prep, and it's basically phosphoric acid. So you use this, you cut this down to some amount of dilution. Let's see, for treating metal for painting, phosphatizing, remove any oil grease and dirt from surface. Dilute 1 part product with 3 parts water. Apply with paintbrush, spray bottle, or pump up sprayer to metal. Then the surface may turn gray or white. Wipe off any loose powder that forms. Paint treated surface within 48 hours of application. So that's what we got to do. I think this is basically formal name, metal etching. Informal name, pickling. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pickle the metal. We're going to get rid of any impurities on it, and then hopefully that 415 will stick and will last, and that's what I want. So let's get that done. All right, so my handy dandy little spray bottle has some graduations on it. It's 1 part to 3 parts. So I got 10 ounces of fluid in there. And no, I don't need to fill it with water to 30 ounces. I need to fill it to a 40-ounce mark, which isn't there. And that would be, let's see, 3 to 1. So 30 ounces to 10 ounces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it about up to the crest of this bottle, somewhere up above the 30 fluid ounce mark, and that ought to be enough. All right, it's done. It's already starting to get a little efflorescence chalk on it. You can see the white starting to form. I mean, I just sprayed it, it's just only been 5 minutes now. So I know some of you are probably looking and saying, oh man, he didn't wear a respirator. He didn't have gloves. Well, what you may not know is I've got a really strong breeze out of one direction. I stayed upwind of it. So I had positive ventilation even though I didn't have anything on my face. All the mist was absolutely being blown away from me. So we're going to let this sit. It's going to take a little while to dry, but it's not a very humid day, and it's nice and comfortable. It's beautiful outside. It's like 68 degrees. You know, this is actually convertible weather. We should be out in a convertible instead of here, but here we are working. All right, I've opened the 415, and if you don't know this little trick for paint cans, in a former life I used to work in paint stores and hardware stores. So when you pop the top, you take your screwdriver and you puncture holes right here in the edge, and what that'll do is that'll allow all the liquid, all the paint that wants to collect in the rim, and it'll allow it to drip into the can. So I've got a cheap brush from Home Depot. I got a cup. You can see it's pretty runny. This stuff is going to flow. They talk about thinning it. I don't see why you would ever want to thin it. But I mean, look how it drips. I mean, they say 2 coats. They say 2 coats of this. So what I did is after I did the pickling, after I did the phosphoric acid, I went ahead and I wiped the whole chassis down by hand really quickly with lacquer thinner. But that's going to be it. And this stuff is probably, all these brush marks are going to come out of it. I think I'm going to have more trouble like this. You see this little run here is happening when he pulls the material off the brush. But I'm going to set the camera up on time lapse, and you guys can watch this. So here we go. Ta-da! I only got a little bit of paint on me, not much. It took me 1 hour, exactly 1 hour to do that. So maybe 30 minutes to prep it with the phosphoric acid, and then an hour to put one coat on it. Now, I did notice that it doesn't adhere very well if there's even the slightest bit of oily residue. I'll wipe this thing down with lacquer thinner, and it's still got little, you can see where it kind of like, it doesn't exactly flow flat. It kind of flows like oil and water, not exactly mixing. But this is an epoxy material. People were warning about the fumes, and I guess that's if they're spraying, because I tell you what, the VOCs in this are like super low from what I can tell. I mean, I'm not sensing anything. It doesn't smell like anything. I mean, I've painted even latex paint in a house that smells worse than this. This is not bad at all. So I wouldn't be afraid of this product. Let's take a look at where we're at. Apologize for the sunlight. Black doesn't show up well in sunlight. I intentionally left this bumper horn undone because my torch is way back in the back of my garage, and I've got a crack or something here I need to fix, and it's just local to right here. So I'm going to fix that once I roll this back into the garage. But this is one coat. Now we'll go ahead and I'll have to let this dry or cure, I guess. And then meanwhile, I guess what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to work on all the front end components. I'm going to take the wire wheel, clean these up, and this is going to be probably not with pour 15. I'll probably paint this with some Rust-Oleum, these individual parts. So that's up next. But I got everything prepped. I'm on the ground here. But one thing, let me tell you, this little wire wheel, once it starts falling apart, forget it, it's attacking you. And that's one thing you can't see, is this thing has been starting to send shrapnel after me, and I'm picking wire shards out of my jeans, out of my shirt. It's smacking the helmet, it's smacking my hands, the gloves. One. That's all it took, was one wheel for the whole chassis, but it's about toast. Let me show you the parts. So there they are. I've already sprayed the A-arms, the control arms with acid. I'm going to spray these down with acid, and then we'll go ahead and I'll spray paint these, and that's going to be it for the front end parts. And then I still need to deal with the rear end. Seems like it never ends. Going back to my paint can, I don't know if you can see it, but I've used about half, a little less than half, which is good for a first coat, because the first coat you're going to use more. So I definitely have enough with one quart to do this entire chassis, 2 coats. All right, so while I'm waiting for those parts to dry that I just did for the front, I'm going back and I'm putting a second coat on the chassis. So this Pour 15 product says that you wait until it dries to the touch, but not like completely dry to the touch until you get like a streaky finger drag. So it's a little bit tacky still. And I'm starting to paint it with the same brush. I soaked it in lacquer thinner, rinsed it out a little bit, or squeegeed it out. Going back, I'm into my second half of this quart. It's going to be plenty enough to cover this chassis, so 1 quart of Pour 15, entire chassis. So I'm going to start doing this. It's laying down really nicely. You can see, you know, I mean, this is good stuff. I think the people that complain about it on the internet probably have been too lazy and haven't prepped their frame right. People saying you can use multiple brushes. I'm on the same brush, one brush. It's a decent brush, it's not a great brush. I mean, this is probably about a $6 brush from Home Depot. I mean, there's nothing magical about it. It's more than what they call a chip, the China bristle. It's more than that. And it's definitely not a foam brush. This is synthetic, probably a polyester or nylon brush, and it's a feathered edge, so it was when you look at it, it had white and black bristles in it, but it had a feathered edge on it. So I'm gonna keep going here. It's hard to do this with one hand holding the camera or holding a phone, but I think you get the point. So let me continue on. So now I'm ready to spray paint the upper control arms and the lower control arms. And I'm just going to use Rust-Oleum Gloss Black. This is a can that we used a couple of months ago, and it's still good. Should be enough to cover everything I need to. But then I'm also going to do the cast parts in a cast gray color. So let me get going with that. All right, all the front parts are painted. 2 lower control arms, 2 upper control arms, spindles, and the calipers. So now I need to go and disassemble the rear end. Let's go do that. All right, now it's a matter of getting it cleaned up, painted, and then get it ready to put back in. All right, good morning. It's day 3. It's another beautiful day outside. It's another day worthy of going out in the convertible. And here I am working on this. I must be out of my mind, man. What is it? You know, I need my head examined. But anyway, we're getting closed. So there's the convertible tempting me. There's the rear end that I'm going to end up fooling with instead of that. So I need to get this finished cleaning up, paint that, get my 2 leaf springs painted. I've got all my parts for the front end already painted. Those all have 2 coats on them now. Put it back. So I have everything here. I got my 2 shop dogs minding my business, and we'll go over this as we go. So let's get started. All right, the rear end's painted. I think this does a really good job of showing you the difference between the contrast between black and the cast finish. I think that looks really good. So even though I might not keep this chunk, if I do, for the time being, it's painted the way I want it. Not that bright orange red that somebody did. This just looks so much more classic. That cast, die cast look. It's an engine enamel from Duplicolor. So let's continue with the rest of it. So I got my rear end reassembled, and remember when I said I'm going to be doing everything myself? I meant by myself. I don't have any help. I guess I should have help, but I don't. So I'm going to be putting this in and filming this and doing all this by myself. Okay, so we got that in. It's just not tightened up, but all the bolts are in place. So that's done. I just need to tighten it up and then get to work in the front. All right, we're in the home stretch now. Just got to get these two front coil springs in, the upper and lower A-frames, and that's going to be it. I'm leaving the drag link and all the steering linkage off for now. But what I've got is I've got my coils. I've got a piece of rubber that I clipped out of a piece of vulcanized rubber. Clipped a little donut out of it. That's to keep it from squeaking. So I put that on here. I went to AutoZone and I borrowed their coil spring compressor. So I'm going to put that inside of the shock mount and then come in and pick the coil up, tighten it up, bolt the A-frame down, pull that together, get the spindle in between, and lock all that together. So that's what we're going to do now. We're almost finished. We got it. I think I gave away all my trade secrets though. But if it helps somebody, there you go. Did you notice what I did with this ratchet strap? So you're on a ratchet strap from that side of the frame around to here, and you just loop it around the coil spring. Because when you tighten this coil spring up, this coil spring wants to be out here. It wants to come way out to this side, so you just wrap it around a loop and you just pull it in, whoop, and you pull it right into where that diameter of that pocket is. So I'm sure plenty of you have been out there with like crowbars beating and banging, and you don't need to do that. The other trick was to use this carpenter's clamp to pinch the two together, just that last little bit, so I can get the thread started. And once I got the thread started, I was able to tighten it up, and away we go. So now I can let go of all this, go to the other side, and repeat it. Like they say in a shampoo bottle: lather, rinse, repeat. So let's go. All right, I got this side all set up. I've got the upper control arm on, the lower control arm on. I've got my ratchet strap around the coil spring. I've got the coil spring compressor tool inside. So let's get this one done. Ta-da! There it is. It's finished. Oh, look at that. The spring just settled into place. So I don't have my caliper on my rotor, but since those are out in the weather right now, I'm not going to put those on. And I don't have my drag link on my tie rod ends because I'm going to redo my steering. So I think that's going to be it. All right, you ready to see the final product? Here it is. I'm telling you what, that looks so nice. I mean, it looks really good. That poor 15, I'm really impressed with it. I mean, that is a rock hard finish after only 24 hours. Look at the way the rear end came out. You like that cast cast iron spray against the black. That's what I like. I did some contrast in the parts there. I did cast iron on these and then cast iron on my U-bolts. I haven't yet sprayed my drums. I'm going to do that when I redo the brakes. But man, what do you think? I like it. But I tell you what, that's going to do it. We've been 3 days now. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I've been editing this video as I go. It's going to be a long one. It's going to be over 30 minutes, I think. I don't know. I just pack a lot of information in it. But if you want to see, you know, what we're doing, I don't hold anything back. So as always, I appreciate each and every one of you that watches. I enjoy having you with me. It gives me motivation. I appreciate all the comments. Leave me some comments down below. If you have any questions, please ask. If you're liking the videos, give me a thumbs up. And if you're liking the channel, please give a subscription. If you like it that much, hey, recommend it to somebody. We can always use more viewers. So, tell you what, that's going to do it for this time. Take care of yourself. Cheers.